Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd, coming to you live from my backyard in Los Angeles, California. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're well, happy, healthy, and having some fun. It's a toasty warm day here in Los Angeles. Temperatures are in the 90s, so it's gonna be I'm gonna try to stay a little cooler, stay in the shade. And today in Critter Chat, we're gonna kick off Shark Week by talking about sharks in general. So I'm not going to get too specific on any specific species. We're going to talk about the big group of sharks in general. And then throughout the week, if there's interest, I will focus on different species of sharks and kind of highlight some of the more prominent or unique species throughout the rest of the week. Shark Week was actually created by a TV station called the Discovery Channel. Cable network, probably around 20-ish years ago, to highlight some of their programs, documentaries that they had about sharks, and it has become a huge phenomenon and has inspired a lot of people and helped a lot of people become more interested in these unique ocean predators. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about what makes a shark. Sharks are cartilaginous fish. That's a big word. What that means is their skeletons are not bones. Their skeletons are made of cartilage. That's the same thing our ears and our nose are made out of. So because of that, shark skeletons don't exist in the fossil record. They don't stick around as long as a lot of other animals, with one part exception, their jaw. Their jaw is a little more dense material and it lasts a little longer. So shark jaws and shark teeth typically stick around, whereas the rest of them kind of decays a little faster. And so what we know about sharks from a long time ago is based mostly on their jaw bones and the teeth that are still attached. Sharks are in a class called Chondrichthyes. That includes rays and skates. So those are other cartilaginous fish that don't have bones. The rest of all other kinds of fish that are true fish have a bony skeleton. So they are both considered animals with bones or with skeletons in the phyla Chordata, which also includes things like mammals and birds and reptiles and amphibians. Sharks and fish are also a part of that group, whereas other things like bugs, spiders, snails, all that are in the other big group of animals called invertebrates, animals without skeletons. Sharks have been around for 400 million years on Earth. So that means that they have been around for a very, very long time, with some species not changing much over that time, and a lot of things with sharks are true to those original species, or what we know about those potential original species from the fossil record. Sharks in that big class of cartilaginous fish, they are then broken down into a group called Elasmobranchi, which is specifically sharks, and then the rays and the skates are the other group. And there are 8 orders of sharks. That means that scientists have organized them into 8 different groups with different criteria on those different groups. With that being said, there are between 400 and 500 species of sharks, and that number's a little vague because there's still a lot of research being done and genetic testing, DNA research to figure out if, like, the sharks that live over here and the sharks that live over here, are they the same species? Are they different enough? All those good things. Plus, because it's the ocean, and the ocean is very large and sometimes very deep, dark, and hard to explore, we're still finding new species of animals every year in the ocean. And sharks are not excluded from that. So we're still learning a lot about sharks, and there's still a lot more to learn about sharks. But of this 400 to 500 species of sharks, they all have kind of 4 things in common. One, we've already talked about. They have softer skeletons, cartilage, things like our ears. So it's not as brittle or as hard as a bone. The second one is that they have between 5 and 7 gill slits. So like fish, because they are a fish, they have gills between, like at the back of their head, that help them to absorb the oxygen out of the water. And most species of sharks have 5, but some have 6 and some have 7. The 7-gilled sharks are believed to be the oldest genetically of the different shark species. Now with the gill slits, they can kind of do that through 2 different ways. Some sharks, many sharks, need to keep swimming all the time with water constantly moving over their gills to allow them to obtain oxygen. That is why many shark species that you may see in like an aquarium or a movie, they're never resting. They never totally stop. They're always moving around. Other sharks can rest, and they can stop, and they can lay on the bottom, and they can take a big break. And those sharks have a little pump that helps pump water over their gills, and that is called a spherical. So there's kind of 2 different ways the sharks can get their oxygen. They either have to keep swimming, or they have a spherical, and that kind of pumps water over their gills. Other animals with a spherical are octopus, so they can also pump water through their system. And many invertebrates, or animals that don't have skeletons, that also live in the ocean, also have sphericals to help pump water through their body. In fact, they use seawater instead of blood in a lot of those species. That's not sharks though, so I won't get off on that tangent. With sharks, they all kind of swim using their fins in different ways. So they all have a big fin at the back that we would call a tail, or a tail fin. The correct term is a caudal fin. They use that fin, the tail, to help make them go forward. So they kind of move that back and forth, and that propels them to go forward. The fins on the side, they kind of use those to steer and help them go either up or down. So lift or dive, and to steer side to side. And then their tail, or their fin that's on their back, called a dorsal fin, they use that to help maintain their balance so that they don't tip over and so they don't wobble from side to side as they're moving, which is very important on some of the sharks who go very fast. The fourth thing all sharks have in common is that they can regrow teeth. Sharks are very known for being able to regenerate teeth. Teeth are always growing and replacing other teeth, and teeth fall out of a shark's mouth very, very easily. Often shark teeth are the things that scientists and researchers find the most to help them determine different types of sharks. That is called revolver dentition. They have kind of a revolving group of teeth always in motion. So the oldest, biggest teeth are up front, ready to be used, and as those fall out, they get replaced by newer teeth behind them, and then behind those are smaller teeth that are still growing, and growing always in rotation. Sharks live in a wide variety of different parts of the ocean. So some species live in very deep water. Some species live out in the middle of the ocean, in the open ocean. That's called pelagic, open ocean. Some live in coastal areas, including places like coral reefs or near shorelines. Some actually live in places where rivers enter the ocean. And there are 3 species that live in freshwater that come and actually spend most of their lifetime in a river system. They're pretty rare, and they're in Southeast Asia, Australia, and the islands in between the 2. There is one species of shark called the bull shark that, although it lives in the ocean for most of its life, has a very high tolerance for fresh water. It gives birth, and baby bull sharks are born in the estuaries. So that's where the freshwater and the saltwater mix in the mouths of rivers as they enter the ocean, or in areas where there's a big bay of fresh water that connects with ocean water. And so they are very able to go back into freshwater many times throughout their lifetime and have been found miles and miles, hundreds of miles in fact, away from the ocean up in rivers. I know that one bull shark was documented to be near St. Louis, Missouri, up the Mississippi River. That's many hundreds of miles from the closest ocean, which the Mississippi River empties into the Gulf of Mexico, part of the Atlantic Ocean, which is really all part of one ocean. All the oceans are connected. There's really only one. They just have different names in different parts of the world. The smallest of all shark species is called the dwarf lantern shark, and it's so small it can fit in your hands as an adult. It's that small. It's just itty bitty. It's the smallest official species of shark. The largest of all shark species is called a whale shark. Whale sharks, the record holder for a whale shark length is 61 feet and 7 inches. They average closer in the 30 to 40 foot range, so they're usually not 61 feet, but that was the biggest one that's ever been measured. Sharks eat a wide variety of things. They are largely regarded as predators. Some of the bigger sharks eat other big animals in the ocean, things like marine mammals, seals, sea lions, sea otters, sometimes whales or dead whales or dolphins. Others specialize in eating fish. That is probably the main prey species for most sharks. Others will eat some other marine animals, things like lobsters or crabs, snails, that kind of thing. And then some sharks eat things like plankton, the itty bitty tiny things, the smallest form of food in the ocean. In fact, the biggest shark, the whale shark, is a plankton eater, so it eats the smallest things out there in the ocean. Sharks are all colorblind. They can't see colors. In their eyes, in their retinas, they only have one type of what scientists call cones. They're little shaped portions of the eye that are the photoreceptors in the retina of the eye. And because of that, all sharks are colorblind. So they're never going to go after something because of its color. They're going to go after something because of how it moves or whatever else they're looking for, if it's in the middle of some area where they usually find food, kind of thing. So they are never going to go after something because of a certain color. Sharks do have a sense of smell. So underneath the tip of their snout, they have two little holes similar to our nostrils. They're called nares. And they can pump water in one side and out the other side. And that helps them to smell in the ocean. Now, there is a myth that they can smell a drop of blood up to a mile away. That is a myth. It has been proven false. So they cannot do that. And depending on different species, that sense of smell is different for different species, with some sharks having a very highly sensitive sense of smell and others not so much. Kind of like different breeds of dogs. Some dogs have a better sense of smell than others. Sharks also have an amazing additional sense in addition to their eyesight and smell and taste and hearing and sense of smell. They can detect electricity. On a shark's head, they have special pores in their skin that have been called the ampullae of Lorenzini. That sounds like a pasta dish, but what it does is it helps them to detect electricity. All animals, including us, including people, give off a small electrical field. It can be caused by things like our lungs moving and our hearts beating, and they can detect that small sense of electricity, and that helps them sometimes to hunt for their different food, particularly animals that bury themselves in the sand on the bottom of the ocean floor. They can detect that electrical current that is being put by those animals, and they can use that to help them find their food. With sharks, between 1/3 and 1/2 of all species are threatened. Again, with it being the ocean, it's very difficult to know what their populations are like, with over 35% of sharks not being clearly defined as to how many they think there are out there and if there is a strong population for them or not. So it's an area that we still need a lot to learn from. The major causes or threats to sharks include things like overfishing. In some places of the world, and some species of sharks are eaten by people, and they are sometimes caught too much too quickly for sharks to reproduce. Most shark species grow very slowly, and when they have babies, it's sometimes very few babies are born, or if more babies are born, very few survive to adulthood. And because of that, shark populations are slow to recover when a lot of them are caught or killed in a short amount of time. A specific part of overfishing for sharks involves something called shark finning. Shark fin soup is a very highly prized food item in a lot of Asian cultures. It's a traditional dish served at many Asian weddings. And shark fin soup has caused mass hunting for sharks, and often people who are fishing for sharks for shark fin soup just catch a shark, cut its fins off, and throw the rest of the shark back into the ocean, where it dies a slow and painful death, and also all of that other potential meat is wasted and just thrown back into the ocean. It's very ridiculous that they estimate over 100,000 sharks are killed for the shark fin trade every year. The United States has officially banned shark finning in U.S. waters, and other states in the U.S. have specifically taken on state legislation to make sure that that doesn't happen. But the world is a big place, the ocean is a huge place, and many other countries still allow shark finning to occur, and it is a major problem with a lot of sharks. I'll be posting some more information about shark finning on the Facebook page later today. Another major threat with sharks is something called bycatch. That is a big part of the problem when people are fishing for very large fish like tuna. Tuna are huge, and oftentimes they catch a lot of other things in the process. If they're using a fish line with a hook, they may catch things like sharks or turtles. Or if they're using big nets, often sharks are caught in those nets, as well as other things like dolphins, turtles, and porpoises. So often bycatch is a very big problem in fishing and can cause a lot of population damage for many species of animals, including sharks. Sharks are also sometimes killed just by people who see a shark and assume it's dangerous. I didn't have a chance to research it today, but I will figure it out and find out. The amount of shark attacks on people is very low. It's always hyped up as they're very dangerous animals, and most sharks would rather leave people alone. And in fact, the amount of shark attacks globally is very low. Today's special shout out is an organization called the Shark Research Institute. They're doing a lot of good work in helping people learn more about sharks and helping to get laws passed, like the shark fin ban in the United States. They were very instrumental in getting that accomplished, and they do a lot of great work, so I'll be sharing more about them later today. With my experience with sharks, it is a bit limited. I have never been like a zookeeper taking care of sharks. However, at the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, where I did work until the coronavirus pandemic shut everything down, we did have multiple species of sharks that lived at the aquarium, and I would see sharks every day during my time at the aquarium, and I enjoyed watching them. At the aquarium, we did not have any of the huge species of sharks because the aquarium just doesn't have the facilities for that. But I did see the species that we had frequently, and it was really interesting to compare the different species we had, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in future episodes of Critter Chat about different shark species coming up. I've also seen some sharks in the wild, which was really amazing and exciting. And that was just a year or two ago. we went to the beach in Santa Monica, which is a very popular beach here in Los Angeles area. And we were there in January. It was a very beautiful, warm day. The temperatures were in the 80s, but there were not very many people at the beach because it's kind of the off season in January. As we were walking along the coast, as the waves would come up and crest before breaking, we started to notice that there was a lot of fish in the waves. And as we looked closer, they weren't just any kind of fish, they were sharks. And the waves closer to the shore were baby sharks, probably, although they may have been a species of sharks that's small, because they were only about this big in the waves that were close to shore. In the waves that were a little further out, we started to see sharks in those as well, and the sharks there were probably in the 3 to 4 foot range. I wasn't able to identify the sharks, nor did we get any photos or video footage of it because it was very difficult to see them. You had to be really low and like looking at the wave through the sunlight to be able to see them. But we saw probably 50 to 60 of these sharks during that day at the beach. I've never seen that happen again at that beach. And before the pandemic shut down, I would go to the beach quite often. And that was the only day I've seen sharks at the beach, and they were all little sharks, either this big or the bigger, like 3 to 4 foot ones. They may have been the same species, and they may have been different species. I don't know. It will remain a mystery until it happens again and I can identify them closer or ask someone else who knows more about that. But it was really exciting to see that many sharks from the shoreline. We were on the sand and we could see the sharks in the waves, and it was a really cool experience to see, and also made me a little hesitant about going in the water, even though most shark species are small and most shark species want nothing to do with anything human and will usually swim away from you before you ever even see them. I hope you've enjoyed what I've shared with you today about sharks. I'll be sharing some more information with you on the Facebook profile later today, so watch for that. And throughout the week, I'm going to focus on shark species, so watch for the other critter chats where I'll talk about different species of sharks throughout this week. So something to look forward to. That's all I have for you today. So be happy, be healthy, have fun. I'll see you again. Bye.